Good evening, friends. Dorene Decibus here from It Begins with Ink and Paper. Welcome to Funfold Friday. I'm so happy to have you join me tonight, and I'm just going to give it a second, let anyone join us who is planning on it. It is 6 o'clock on Friday, March 17th. And I have, let me just get things a little straight here on. There we go. That looks a little better. So tonight I have a really fun fold to show you. I actually posted it at 4 o'clock on my card of the day so you could see it. This is what it would look like when it's standing up. And when it's standing up, you can see it's kind of like a V fold, I guess I would say. I'm calling it a wow fold because I think it is a wow, and I don't know what the actual name of this fold is. So this is the card we're going to be making tonight, so let me just set that aside for a minute. I am going to be using the Abigail Rose suite from the main catalog and idea book. I've been using a lot of the mini occasion catalogs sets recently, and so I thought I would go old school and go right back to the catalog. So I'm using a lot of the product from the Abigail Rose suite, including the Cottage Rose stamp set. This is such a just pretty set of florals. It has some great sentiments. It actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentiments, and several floral images as well. So we'll be using this set tonight. It does come with a set of dies. So let me just move that out of the way. You can see we have lots of different choices of dies in here, and they are just beautiful. Some can be used, this one I can cut out a piece of paper and then stamp behind it. That looks really cool, or just have an outline. So this is what we have that comes with the bundle. It also has a beautiful set of designer series paper. It's 12 by 12, and just let me tell you the colors that it coordinates with. I'm using this piece, I decided against this piece, and then there's one other, this piece here. But the colors that it coordinates with are Basic Black, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, Petal Pink, Smoky Slate, and Very Vanilla. So we're using Very Vanilla tonight. We're also going to be using the Early Espresso, and we're going to be using the Crumb Cake. I think and Petal Pink. We're going to be using Petal Pink in our blends. So those are the colors. Now, the ribbon that goes along with this suite is just, I love it. Not only is it so soft, it has kind of a burlap look to it, but it's very, very soft, and you can actually stamp on this. So that is very cool, and it's easy to fray, and I'm going to be fraying it tonight. I have just a scrap of Very Vanilla, I think it's a 4x4 or 4x4 1/4 piece that I'm going to be using to stamp and color my image on. So it doesn't need to be quite this big, but close to this size here. Okay, I have tons of little pieces of paper, so let me just set them aside, and I'm going to let you know the sizes of all of them. Again, at the end, when this video goes live, after I'm done recording it, I will post the measurements of everything and all the scoring and cutting that you need to do for this particular card. So I'm starting with a piece of thick, Very Vanilla cardstock. And this is going to be scored and cut in a lot of different ways, and I'll go over that as we're making the card. I also have a piece, this is a piece of the Abigail Rose paper, and it measures 2 3/8 inches by 2 7/8 inches. And it's going to be layered onto a piece of Early Espresso cardstock that's 2.5 by 3. So I'm going to do that right now. we'll get these layers done so that they'll be ready to go on to the cardstock. We're not going to see much of this, but we're going to see the outer edges of it. So that is that piece. We'll put this over in the corner. Then I have 2 pieces of Crumb Cake cardstock that measures 1 7/8 by 5 3/8. And these 2 pieces of the floral paper, and I cut these out. I want to kind of keep them, I want to put these side by side. This measures here 1 3/4 by 5 1/4, and this is going to be layered onto the Crumb Cake cardstock. So let me just... So in the back side of this designer series paper is the smoky slate color, but I just love the patterns. I had thought about coloring the flowers pink, but when you see the final card, I decided to do it on this stamped image. So, just adding my Stampin' seal. You could use any adhesive on this card that you would like. I really enjoy, the Stampin' seal is my go-to adhesive. And I really base the adhesive on the project that I am doing. So let me just make sure this is lining up the way I want it to. Okay, that's perfect because I want that set for when I put those on the card. I have 4 little pieces of designer series paper, and it is the Petal Pink stripe paper, and it measures 1 7/8 by 1 1/8. Now, anytime you're using a stripe or a very a pattern that goes in one direction, you just want to make sure you're cutting it correctly. So the stripes are going to go up and down. So I have those 4 there. And then I have 2 more pieces, and these measure 7/8 by 7/8 of an inch by 3. And they are also going to be layered on the card. So let me just put those aside, and let's start with our stamping. So I've got this piece of cardstock, and I'm going to use Early Espresso ink, and this is the stamp that I'm going to be using. So I just want to make sure I ink that up. So lots of good ink is on it, and then I'm going to stamp my image. There we go. It's a beautiful stamp. I love it. And it's a great one to do some coloring with. So you can see, like I said, I cut the piece a little big, but it's not too big. So I'm going to start with doing some coloring. And I'm going to be using the blends. And I just want to point out, when using the blends, you are going to see people color this in all different ways. I'm going to show you how I color. I like going from light to dark. Some people like going from the dark to the lighter. I like to go from light to dark and then back to light again, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So I'm going to start, but I'm actually starting with my dark Daffodil Delight because I really want it to show. And I'm just going to dot some color on the tiniest of flowers. Kind of looks almost like a weed, but I wanted some yellow in it. And I'm not really coloring it. I'm just dotting in some of the yellow just to give it the appearance that it is colored in. And I'm also going to color in the center of the flower. Kind of doing the same thing, just kind of dotting. So there'll be some lighter spots and some darker spots. And then just going down. So there, we've got the yellow is all done. All right, so as I said, I start with my lighter color and I work towards the larger color, the darker color. So I am just going to color the entire floral image in. I'm going to try to make sure I stay within the lines, though that's not as important with this card because I am going to be cutting it out. So if you know, if there's a little bit on the outside, I can usually take care of that with the die cutting. But I also have the color lifter. It doesn't really lift the color, but it pushes the color out of the way. So I could use that to fix a mistake. So you can see this is a pretty light pink color. I was thinking when I made my sample the other day that I would want it to be darker. And so I had cut 2 of the flowers out and I colored it just with dark. And that's what I actually did for this card. So you can see that the pink is much richer and darker. On this card, you can see that the pink is going to be lighter, but I am going to pull out some of the accents. So I'm going to take now the not the paintbrush in, but the finer tip in, and I'm going to come in and I am going to use, that's what I love about rubber stamps, I am going to use the highlights that are provided for me in the stamp, and I am going to color over those with the darker pink. Now, pink is not necessarily a color that you are just going to see it stand out with these highlights, but you are going to notice it's going to start taking form. And when I color over it with the lighter pink, it's going to blend in, and there's going to be lighter spots and darker spots. So I'll hold this up closer to the camera as soon as I'm done with my coloring. Now, some people would leave it right like this and just let those lines be a natural highlight to the image. Let me just pull that over so you can see it. I'm still learning how to use the camera. So that is what it looks like now. So now what I'm going to do is take the lighter color and I'm just going to blend this in. So I'm just going over that and trying to blend those colors in. I'm not trying to recolor. I'm trying to only go over those areas that I just colored in. So there's going to be some texture. You're going to see some lighter pinks and some darker pinks, and that is what the flower looks like. Now we're going to do the same thing with the leaves, and I wanted to go soft with this card, so I'm using the soft seafoam, which is probably our lightest green that we have. So I'm going to do the same thing, and with the light, I'm just going to color in the leaves. Since I stamped in the espresso, I don't feel the need to color in any of the stems. There's just this one right here and this one here. This one here would actually probably be more green anyway. But I don't feel, since I use the espresso, that I need to, you know, color those in necessarily. It's looking so pretty. And now I'm going to do the same thing and go in with the darker and just color over where those shadow lines are. So you don't even have to be an artist. I feel like an artist though when I use the blends, because they just make coloring so easy. The lines blend together, so it's not like coloring with a colored pencil where you might have different lines end up in your final design. So it does make you really feel like an artist. The blends come 2 to a pack, so you get both the light and the dark. So I want to thank all of you out there who have been following my YouTube channel. I'm so appreciative of all of you. And I have to say, I haven't had my YouTube channel running long, but I had my 100th subscriber yesterday, and that just tickled me pink. So thank you for that. All right, so now I am going to cut this out, this beautiful floral image. And in the magic of TV land, here it is. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. Okay, now it's time to do some cutting of, I'm just going to move these blends out of the way. I'm going to need to get my trimmer out, and I'm going to show you how to cut and score our paper. So, here we go. So I'm going to start with holding it on the 8-inch side. And I am going to be scoring this at 2 inches and 6 inches. So I'm going to start with my 6 inches. I'm going to make sure my cutting tool is at the top. And I'm going to come in and score that. And then I'm going to come down to my 2-inch part. And I am going to score that. Next, I am going to turn this to the 5.5-inch side. And I am going to be actually doing some cutting between these two score lines. So I'm going to move my scorer out of the way, and I'm going to bring my scoring tool to the 2-inch mark so I can see that right here on the side. I have a little line here that goes, and I'm going to go down to the 6-inch mark. So I'm going to take care of that. So you can see I've got it cut perfectly. I'm going to turn it around and go to the 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 inch again. And I am going to start at that 6-inch mark. And again, I'm going to cut up to the 2-inch mark. All right, so that part is done. Now I'm going to go back to doing some scoring. So I'm going to put that cutting blade up. So the next score is going to be in between the cut lines this time. And so I am going to be scoring at 3 inches and 5 inches. So let's start at the 5-inch mark. And I am going to go right between these cutting lines. And I am going to score. There we go. And then I am going to go to the 5, that's the 5 to the 3-inch mark, and do the same thing. It's okay with the scoring if I go a little bit, if I'm off a little bit. I try not to be, but it is okay if that happens. All right, so now that scoring's done. And then finally, I'm going to be scoring at 4 inches. And this time I'm scoring from the cut line to the top and from the cut line to the bottom. So I'm going to go to that 1 1/4 inch mark, and then I'm going to come down here and do that area as well. Okay, all my scoring is done. So as long as you follow these scoring directions, you'll have no trouble putting this card together. It's not difficult. It just, you need to go in that order and do the first scoring, then the cutting, then the second scoring, and then the final scoring. So I'm going to start, even before I do any cutting, I'm going to start putting this together. So this one is going to go on my left-hand side. And I cut these 1/8 of an inch, so there's not a lot of vanilla that's going to be showing. So here we go. So if you're watching tonight, make sure you say hello. I love to know who's joining me during the live or the replay. That's perfectly fine. Either one. I know I have a fellow demonstrator who I like to watch when I can, but she goes live at 10 on Fridays, and I'm usually working. I'm out on medical leave right now because I had surgery. and I was going to watch her this morning, but I had my follow-up surgery appointment at 10, so I couldn't. Okay. So when you look at this as a whole, you can see that there's 4 small rectangles that are here, then the 2 longer, and then there's the centerpiece. So these small pieces of Designer Series paper are going in those 4 small rectangles. So it's starting to come together. And then these 2 longer rectangles are going to go side by side to the centerpiece. Whoops, let me just bring this up a little bit. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do some of this folding. So this end is going to be folded in, and this end is going to be folded in. I do not want to fold this middle piece. So this part here is going to be folded up, and this part here is going to be folded up, and then this piece is going to be folded out, and this piece will be folded out. And when all is said and done, it's going to be able to stand like that. So you see that V shape here. And when it goes down flat, you can see we still need to put in that centerpiece. So I'm going to take the centerpiece. And this piece is bigger than this. So what I want to do is add some dimensionals. And I'm going to actually add it to the vanilla cardstock so that I can position that centerpiece where it needs to go. So we'll put these on, and I'll show you how this closes up. It will fit in a standard envelope, so that won't be an issue at all. I'm going to want this centered. Get all those off. So I'm going to want this centered. There we go. So now we have that piece like that, and it's going to look like that. So the next step is I want to position my flower, but I want to put some of the ribbon on. So what I'm going to start is I am going to just start fraying it a little bit. I don't want it to continue fraying after I am done. So I'm going to actually cut the sides so that the sides are still attached, but it allows me to fray it a little bit. So it looks kind of neat. Let me do the same, get all the frayed edges off over here. Over here. It's just nice how easy it is to do. And like I said, this ribbon, which is part of the Abigail Rose suite, you can stamp on as well. So that just makes it even cooler. Let me just get these little extra pieces off and out of the way. There we go. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is just add a glue dot. Now this will add dimension to your, when we put this down. Now the part that you have to be careful about is you do not want anything to go beyond here. So when it folds, which it will fold like this, when all is said and done, you don't want this to be way out here and interfere with going into the envelope. So you want to make sure that it doesn't go out too far when you're putting it on. So let me just add some adhesive. I can add adhesive right onto the ribbon, and I can attach it right here. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my rose. Again, I want to make sure I'm going more towards the center of the flower so that it's going to fit onto this smaller piece. And we're almost done. So if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you go to YouTube, find It Begins with Ink and Paper, and subscribe to my channel. Maybe you can be number, I think I have 101 right now. I had the 100th one just the other day, and I was just, like I said, tickled pink. So I thank you all for your support. That couldn't be better. Oh, we have one more thing to stamp. I forgot. I want to also stamp a greeting. And because this designer series paper is it's a very neutral piece. Let me just make sure I've got this on nice and straight. I can stamp right on. So my best wishes is right there on the side panel of the card. And now I'm going to use, these are the iridescent pastel gems. So I am going to, I actually on this card had a smudge of the espresso ink. So I had to use a large one there. So that's how I picked my pattern. So I'm going to take one of these and put right here. And then I'm going to take two of the smaller ones and put right up at the top. There we go. And that, my friends, is today's fun fold. Do you agree that it's a wow fold? I just love it. I just think it's so cool. And I do want to give credit to the person who I saw make this fold, and I saw her video on YouTube. It was Marianne Cohen. She said this was not her design. She saw it from someone else, but she couldn't remember who it was. But I did want to give that person credit because I did copy, I changed up. She used the Abigail Rose suite, so my card looks very different from hers, but I did want to give her credit because that's where I learned to make this fold. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Fun Fold Friday, and I hope to see you back next Friday night, same time, same bat channel, and have you join me for another Fun Fold Friday. Have a great week, everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.